Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first in a series of executive briefings with Tago and BHIoT Group. My name is Steve Brumer. I will be leading the executives briefing series with Tago over the next couple of months. The first one, as you can see, is going to be on how to select an IoT platform. So I'd like to introduce Fabio, the CEO of Tago. Fabio, please introduce yourself and we'll go from here.
Yeah, that's great. Nice to be here, Steve. Really very excited to share a little bit about how we are working with customers, what's the importance. And yeah, I've been working a while with IoT and talking from Raleigh, North Carolina right now.
Excellent. And again, I'm Steve Brumer with BHIoT Group. We are an international advisory, strategy, and consulting group in the IoT space. I've been doing this for about 27 years in IoT and machine to machine. And our focus is on helping companies monetize and commercialize their IoT products and services. And Fabio and I and our teams have known each other for a while, and we love working with those guys. So I'm happy to be the moderator for this executive series. So without any further ado, let's just get right into it, because we're going to make this short, by the way, everybody. We're going to try and keep this thing under 20, 25 minutes so you can get the most out of your day. First question I have for you, Fabio, as we talk about it related to the subject is, go through a strategy on selection of an IoT platform. Like, how do you go through that strategy in the selection process? What are the highlights?
Yeah, that's very important for sure. Since the beginning, that's what you do, right? So we created the cloud platform, and customers are really looking for something like that. And they think, okay, how you make it a decision? Normally, the way it works, really try to bring some thoughts for the customers, basically in 3 steps. The first thing you say is very simple, is like, hey, know yourself, right? Try to understand what's your competence, what kind of team you have. For example, do you have developers? Do you have business developers? And what extension of your company are going to be working with this platform? That's the first thing. The second, again, is very basic. Is like, what do you want to do? And that's a little bit tricky because, hey, I want to connect the device and bring this to the business. But what the purpose? Do you want to reduce the cost? Do you want to improve the quality, improve the customer experience, and so on? That's very important, because only then we recommend people talk about the technology. Okay, so what technology you're going to select? So you need to go back and say, okay, so for example, if I have developers inside of my company, maybe I want to go a long term and make sure I have all the components inside and I'll own everything, and I can have a very long shot in terms of development. And that's fine. So you need to align these 3 points and go back and revisit. I think that's a very simple strategy. But when you talk with a customer, they start to think, yeah, that's a very good point. Bring this to us and discuss together. We can really go much faster and try to avoid a lot of problems, mainly when they don't know really what and where they want to go.
So Fabio, is there a problem that the IoT platforms that you bring to market are solving for your customers? I mean, how does a platform solve a problem?
Yeah, that's for sure. That's what you focus, of course, help customers to solve their problem. And many times it's really about, okay, how are we going to bring value? Okay, it's not the problem. Many times it's not really about how you're going to connect the thing, but really how you're going to have a positive return of investment, right? So knowing again the basic, what they want to do. For example, if the problem is that they want to get better around, provide a better service for their customers, a better user experience, then we have a different strategy than, for example, if they want to go with a cost reduction, because the time is different. Okay, so normally the big problem that they want is like, hey, how are we going to own that? How much are going to be needed to develop this and keep this up to date? Okay, when they decide where they want to go, that's a big problem that they want to fix at short and long term.
You brought up an interesting topic, and that's around costs around an IoT platform. how important is cost to your customers, to the people that are using this? I mean, and answer the question, should they build it? Should they buy it? Should they rent an IoT platform?
Yeah, and first you need to understand that there are a lot of components in the IoT solution, right? So if you get the overall digital transformation strategy, IoT is just one part, but if you go inside IoT, there are a lot of components, right? So you cannot forget that there are items like which device you're going to use, connectivity, and then you have the cloud platform like TagoIO. Okay, so how you work around that, that's very important, because then they needed to break this down and say, okay, how much I want to invest at the beginning and how much can I pay or afford at the long term. And for us, that is very important because we know that many companies prefer, of course, depend a little bit, but prefer, okay, to do a little bit investment, but not have a high recurrent cost at long term, right? Because there are a lot of uncertainty how this business is going to grow, right? So having this in mind is important, but it's important to have also a margin for that, because frankly, there are a lot of uncertainty when you work with IoT. It's just not the platform, but overall, right? Because many times they are creating new business, and cost is extremely important. And the decision, at least in a range, in our experience, should be done at the beginning, because then you can understand how much data they're going to send, how much development, your optimization need to do at the beginning. And frankly, sometimes customers have a higher range because they say, no, that's okay. I want to go faster and deploy these, and then we can optimize at mid and long term. And that's fine. Other cases, they say, no, no, I talk about 100 or 500,000 devices. I need to have this cost optimized since day one when I launch this product. So it's really about the strategy. Again, I really like to go back to their business model. I think that's a fundamental, but cost, of course, is very important.
And again, if we look at platforms and the business model, I mean, a lot of the costs, there's a lot of upfront costs, there's monthly costs and support costs. Is that confusing the customers? How do we make it simpler?
Yeah, that's a good point, because you asked what like the other cost, right? And there is the hidden cost, right?
Right.
It's really not a hidden, but if you don't think well about all the details,
If you don't have the experience, you don't know.
yeah, exactly. So you think, okay, I'm gonna pay X thousand dollars for this setup, then I'm gonna pay $1 per device. Let's say something like that. But again, there is a little bit more than that. How many people do you need to hire to take care internally about maintenance, update, upgrades, security updates, regulation updates, and so on? Okay, so that is what I see as the hidden cost, and that's where normally customers need some experience or get a consultant or have more conversation with us, try to bring this to the table. And we have all the interest to show everything at the beginning, right? We don't want the customer to come and say, hey, I'm going to build that, very excited, later say it doesn't work for us. So having this conversation at the beginning for the cost to build, and be very clear about how much it's going to cost at the beginning and how much they can afford, like the cost that they're going to change according to their volume, how many devices they're going to have a long term, how many users they're going to have, is very important so they can have a sustainable business case.
It's amazing how many companies that we talk to, and you have to see that all the time, see these companies that want to try and do it themselves, build their own platform because, oh, it's easy, I can just do that. They have no idea, talk about hidden costs, just the development and the time to market and all the other nuances. Just because you might have done an IoT platform or have done something, IT platform, IoT is not the same. And so I would assume that you're doing some consultative selling to these companies that are trying to evaluate what the right way to go to market is.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because if you get a solution and build something around, maybe you call it this as a platform because you think I can go faster, I can go to AWS, Microsoft, or Google,
Right.
get the components together and try to build this and have my platform much faster. But the problem that you have realized with many cases, it's not all, but in many cases that say, hey, we didn't build a platform that's flexible enough that's going to be working long term. It's just good for track this device in this business model. So when they go with a platform like ours, for example, is they see the flexibility, they see the capability that they can integrate with other systems. So one thing that we use a lot, say, hey, think about integration and how you are going to expand things. It's different to think about a platform that you can combine components and grow versus an infrastructure, right?
Right.
So there are a lot of components, but normally you say, if what you're looking for is already in the market, is reliable, and it works for you with some adjustment, probably that's the right way to go. If something you have the solution that you're looking for is right in the market, maybe you go after. But if you need to customize a long term, is much better if you rely on a partner that just to do that, right? Because keeping this a long term is can be a problem.
Yeah, I got to, when you look at dealing with the Microsofts, the Googles, and the Amazons, the ability to customize any specific needs you have is extremely costly and very, very difficult in the sense of dealing and working with them if they have to do something. So I agree with the flexibility that going to a company like Tago, who has the ability to turn on a dime, add more features that customers may want, is extremely important. But do you find that some of the larger companies, when they're going through this process of selecting an IoT platform, feel like that's a safe decision to go to the big guys versus going to a Tago?
Yeah, I think there is this feeling, right? I think many times management thinks, say, hey, we don't want to depend on anybody, right? We're going to hire my team. I'm going to spend some $1 million here. I'm going to hire 10 guys because it's not cheap, right? You can do that, even a small company, but there is a lot of time that you need to, and effort that you need to put into, right? So what we haven't seen, Steve, really, sometimes we see customers coming to us and we evaluate before we start to talk to them. We take a look at their website to say, man, they already have a platform. Why they want to talk to us, right? And we go there and say, oh, that's pretty nice. Then they talk to us. They say, hey, Fabio, we started creating this platform. We built from the scratch, and we put our components together. We hire people, but now it's too expensive. I cannot keep up with all the regulations that I need to follow. And I am not the IT company, a software company. So I needed to hire more people. Some people left the company. So it's like they think they can control everything, but if it's not their core business, maybe it's not the best decision for them. Then they come back and say, you know what? We want to keep doing what we're very good at, our business, because we are not in their business, right? Our business is to take care of the platform. So if you can help it there, that's great. And then they say, okay, we're going to switch. Okay. Again, in some cases, maybe it makes sense to build everything, but it can be very expensive. So you need to do the math and get one expert to help you to make the decision. It is very important to do this in the front end. You're going to make some mistake, but at least you see a much better view and you'll be inside of a range that you can say, okay, things change a little bit, but I know what's coming next because I'm talking to somebody that will understand.
So a lot of companies come to you, and this is their initial first shot at being in the IoT business, bringing a product or a service to market. Do you suggest that for going through the initial process of getting an IoT platform up and running, that they do a trial or some kind of proof of concept? Is that what you're suggesting to customers?
Yeah, I think it's a natural process because at least the way we work is that we made the platform available for free in the internet, so people can sign up right away in seconds, and they can connect to the device. They can get a list of 100 of device, network server, different means of communication. And when they come and talk to us, they already have done some tests. So that's really ideal because we know that they already test something. As you said, maybe somebody that haven't done anything, say, hey, sign up, take a look. And of course, you're going to do a demo and demonstrate something for your business. Then we recommend technical team really go deep, okay, run your proof of a concept. But for the business team, and say, hey, make sure you focus on the pilot, not really, don't worry about if things are gonna work because things will gonna work technically. The challenge will be like how you're gonna bring your different departments together, your customer, your partner together, and how you're gonna make money with that. That's the challenge. So to run some tests, evaluation to feel comfortable and confident that you know the key criteria to make your decision, I think is really bring a lot of value to the table.
Well, when they're talking about how to make money doing this, they better think about calling you and I at the same time so we can figure out the best progress we can make with them. And so what's some of the biggest challenge? What's the top one or two challenges that you are facing when speaking to customers about selection of an IoT platform?
Yeah, I think a lot is about the uncertainty that they really don't know if they really want to own this at long term or if they can rely at the beginning on top of other platform. Okay, I think that's something that comes a lot of time. But again, that is where I think we fit very well. And the reason is because they can really start very small, connecting just, let's say, hundreds of devices and run your POC, run your pilot, then they can expand. Okay, so I think one thing that comes to their mind is that, okay, I'm going to spend a little bit of money here at the beginning, but how much is it going to cost at the long term? Okay, so we help them to understand, estimate very well how much they're going to cost. Okay, normally if they're going to doing some connection, buy some hardware, connect a device, let's say for maybe ballpark like $5 per device a month. At the beginning, that's nothing. But when they have thousands of devices, like you have a customer with 60,000 devices, they want to pay, they need to pay much less for that. So I think a big challenge is to try to do this at early stage as possible. Try to estimate the cost. Again, you're not going to be perfect. There is no way. Given our experience, talking with hundreds of customers that use our platform, thousands of them, we see that things can change. But at least they always think about that, and they can rely on a cost that's flexible. So having this flexibility is important because if they sign up, let's say, agreement long term, and then they figure out after couple of months that they still need to pay for years in a business model that doesn't work for them, that would be a big problem.
Many times the groups that we advise at BHIoT Group are talking about API integration to many different applications that are there. And the concern they have is how long, how hard, how much effort is it going to take to do a complete API integration to the IoT platform and the application that they're looking to deploy. Can you give any advice on that?
Yeah, for sure. First, really believe that now and the future is about integration. We always talk about that, okay? Have a dashboard for visualization, push notification is good, but the value for us, and again, because we see the customers happy, make money, is really about integration. There is no one place that are gonna get everything, right? If you need to integrate with some ERP system in a company, you need to go with the SAP system, right? Or maybe you need to get something from Microsoft, Google, Watson. So integration is fundamental. So that's the first thing. Maybe you need to spend a little bit time to understand how to integrate there, okay? We have experience working with a system that we are able to track devices where you don't really track the device. I mean, of course, you get information from the device, but we are tracking the asset, right? We are tracking the equipment. And this information is coming from a system like SAP system, right? So that's what's matter. So integration is important. And you haven't seen that normally it can take a couple of hours or days to integrate. So it's really we see a trend that most companies are make easier, and the APIs are getting public. Every day you see more and more, right? Normally just did the documentation like Swagger they call, and the API documentation, and get the authorization, and you can start to test. So my recommendation is try to look around about what you want to integrate, go step by step, and have developers talking, because normally our experience take a couple of hours, frankly, a couple of hours, developers can say, hey, this is going to take 1 day, 1 week, 5 weeks, and then look for the implementation, because you can save a lot of time. And last thing, Steve, why I think it's so important, because if you're not careful, you may create like a complex solution inside of your company, and maybe you are missing opportunity to keep it using the software you have by integrating things, right? For example, you can get information from sensor and send it for software that you already have, so you don't need to train people. So integration has this big benefit. You can maybe keep using part of your system that you already have it, and make improvements step by step. You don't need to change everything, centralize, let's say, everything in our platform, in any other platform. Maybe you just go step by step.
Excellent. So, Fabio, as we conclude this quick executive briefing, and I appreciate the time and the energy and the effort you've put into this. So it's about how to select an IoT platform. So I'm going to pose a question. I'm a new company coming to you looking for an IoT platform. Pitch me on the reasons I should select Tago and your platform, your IoT platform, and your company and your services and your people.
Yeah,
because people buy from people they trust and like. So
yeah,
yes.
yeah, no, that exactly. And we pay a lot of attention to the details, and we really try to do a very good support, right? So that's a good point. It's not only about the technology. Okay, we spend a lot of time when customer coming to us with a free account and make a consultant. We don't charge for the consultant, specifically. And what we see that customers coming to us because they can, again, start fast, they can understand the overall ecosystem, they can benefit from the partner that you have. You have almost 100 partners that supply devices, connectivity, and so on, and they can expand. So that, I think, is a big point. They will not be going to be stuck. They say, hey, we started with Tago, very good start. Now I cannot do this and that. Now you can continue to grow and add machine learning, AI, integrate with other systems. So we really thought about that, and we work with thousands of companies that really create a solution, and we learn a lot. And we are in a system that we put this platform available for people. It's really an IoT cloud platform that has a lot of components that we believe, because we have seen that customer can benefit by using those components that's already well tested and is available and affordable. So that's I think is really about the things together. It's like not one thing. It's really about help them to go faster, but really in a reliable platform.
And it's funny, thank you very much for that pitch, but it's funny that you say the same things that we do when we're talking to clients, which is utilizing our 25, 30 years of experience around go-to-market and bringing products and services to market, and also around the consultative selling approach around IoT, building the right base of customers and product offerings together. And helping companies with their monetization, commercialization, which is what you're doing too with a great IoT platform. So, well, thank you very much, Fabio. It's been a great 24 minutes together. For everybody out there, the second in our series of executive briefings is going to be held on March 23rd at 1 o'clock, where we will be talking to Jack Stewart or Barney at TechTellit. We don't know who's going to be there. But the topic is going to be around cold chain management and the involvement that Tago and TechTellit have in that space and that vertical market segment. And so with that, I thank you, Fabio. It's been great. I appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining Fabio and I today. And we look forward to seeing you on March 23rd at 1 o'clock. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Steve.